So, we're suggesting that we're entering into a third wave of environmentalism. Third. But first, we were talking, I'm sorry, so you were saying something. John read a quote earlier that spoke to this. The first wave was conservation. And that's initially the folks who first really took care of this land. For thousands of years, you had Native American folks who were the guardians, caretakers of the Americas, the whole big thing. And it was said that when Christopher Columbus and his crew got here, that a squirrel could climb a tree at the Atlantic Ocean and hop from limb to the Mississippi without ever touching the ground. Yeah? And that was a beautiful thing. But then the continent came under new management. And they had some different ideas about how to use the resources. And so there was really this chopping down and tearing up of a lot of the country. And eventually it got pretty bad, such that a couple of folks started saying, hold on, wait. So we have, I realized recently, maybe with you all I don't have to, but I realized recently I have to explain who that is. But him and Sean, yeah, a lot of places people are like, I don't know who that is. Yeah, he was kind of a big deal, as the kids say. So Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir, among others, said, hold on, we got to save some of this. We can't just burn it all down, cut it all down, dig it all up. We got to hold on to some of it for future generations. And so that was a good thing. We think that's absolutely right. But then there was a second wave of environmentalism, which was regulation. And that was initially captured by this book that some of you might know, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, where it really started looking at what was happening to birds on the edges of rural communities and where cities and rural communities met. And it really looked at them as like canaries in coal mines. So talking about the toxins that our society were leaching into the wild and what that was doing. And out of that, a couple years later, you get the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. You actually start getting regulation of pollutants, and you start actually having the idea of pollutants. And that went fairly well as far as it went. But then in the 80s, communities of color said, hold on, it's beginning to look as if white polluters and white environmentalists are colluding to dump toxins in our communities. And that's not quite fair. So this idea of, it's really not fair. This idea of environmental justice was born, right? That there should be equity in the distribution of toxics, and equity in cleanup. That when you start looking at a lot of the Superfund sites, that's sites that will take, I think it's $500 million or more dollars to clean up, are disproportionately located in communities of color and take forever to get clean. And so folks said, hold on, and launched whole campaigns and organizations and a whole movement to do something about environmental injustice. Great organizations, some fellow travelers have come out of that kind of work. We're now entering into the third wave. This is the cliffhanger. You guys ready? Third wave of environmentalism. Conservation. Yes, you got to conserve it. Really, you can't burn everything up. You can't cut it all down. You can't dig it all up. This mountaintop removal stuff. Anybody from a state where they do that? Anybody? That stuff's tough. That's like, whoa. First time I saw that, I was like, how do you just grind up a mountain? It takes like millions and millions, sometimes billions of years, geologic years, to build a mountain, and humans in less than 10 just power it. So we actually have to conserve the planet. And we actually have to regulate pollution. We can't just dump. Right now we're having this problem with carbon. I don't know if you've heard about that. They're putting a lot of carbon in the air, and it's like heating up the planet. We'll come back to that one. But, so, conservation, regulation, yes. But investment, see, that's a cliffhanger. That's a twist. You see the turn? Because conservation, regulation, you think it's going to be another Asian, and it's invest. You see that twist? Now you see that? I didn't warn you about that. You see that? I didn't warn you about that. Now, you might say, well, no, you might not say investment. Well, some of you might. What's investment? Well, investment, when we first started this conversation about 6.5 years ago, we get to this point in the conversation, people say, well, what does investment look like? But I don't even know what that means. How do you invest in environmentalism? What does that even mean? Well, now actually, I think it's pretty obvious in general, and most people know what it looks like. Solar panels, hybrids, paint that isn't toxic, organic food. These are ways you invest in environmentalism. Now, if you notice, we have two columns. We have one that in general sort of represents white people. And we have one that in general represents communities of color. So then the question is, what's here? In this new wave. Another cliffhanger. You know, it's not a competition, you guys, but she's winning. Okay. So, but since we started the conversation, green is not mainstream. We got Cameron Diaz and her hybrid. George Clooney, that's a really sharp, I like that guy. He's really sharp. That's a good dresser. Elle magazine does her Angel Green issue. Vanity Fair. Elle. Green is the new black. And this guy has, you know. He did lose the presidency.
Not really.
No. He's not president. We can argue later about lost or stolen or you know. So, but I mean, he bounced back though.
Sure did.
He won an Oscar.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
Dude, he had a good year in 2007. Even businesses has jumped on. Now, we've discussed this problem of carbon. And so I think it's interesting that a lot of car companies, and now even technology companies, are jumping into the fray. General Electric. Now, General Electric, last time I checked, actually owns nuclear reactors. But eco-imagination. All right. You can hug trees and curbs, even Lexus. They jump in, right? You can have an big piece of hunking metal that pollutes slightly less. Even our friend Kermit has changed his mind. Right? He used to think it's not easy being green. That's what Kermit said when I was a kid. And now he's changing. So let's look at the numbers.